In the heart of England, over 3 centuries ago, tragedy struck a woman whose name would fade into legend, but whose presence would linger long after death. She is known as the Brown Lady, the Lantern Woman, a ghost seen at Raynham Hall and across the misty coasts of Cornwall. Dorothy Walpole, a noblewoman of the 18th century, died in mysterious circumstances in 1726. Some say smallpox, others whisper poison, betrayal, or revenge. Her death, however it came, gave birth to a legend that would haunt England for centuries. But this was only the beginning. The first sighting of her ghost was recorded decades later. Captain Frederick Marryat, a guest at Raynham Hall, was walking the corridors late one night when he saw a figure, robed in brown satin, floating silently down the grand staircase. Her face was pale, her eyes dark, hollow sockets that seemed to stare into his very soul. Her presence, he described, was suffocating. No one knew her intentions. Some said she was searching for the children she was cruelly separated from in life, seeking a justice she would never find. Others whispered that her long years in the dark had changed her, that she was now hungry for the life she had lost. Over time, the legend of the Brown Lady evolved, her spirit seemingly breaking free from the confines of Raynham Hall. Rumors began to spread from the treacherous, fog-shrouded coasts of Cornwall. They spoke of a new apparition, one they called the Lantern Woman. It was said she carried a single flickering lantern, a small, solitary light that would appear on stormy nights along the perilous cliffs near St. Ives. Fishermen and smugglers, familiar with every rock and crevice, became wary of this phantom glow. Those who followed the light, drawn by what they mistook for a signal or a guiding beacon, sometimes never returned. The stories became more specific, more chilling. They told of at least 14 people who vanished without a trace along this very stretch of coast during the 18th and 19th centuries. Each disappearance was eerily connected to recent sightings of the Lantern Woman. Fishermen, out on the churning sea, shared hushed tales in seaside taverns. They spoke of seeing her light from the water, a will-o'-the-wisp dancing on the cliff edge. Some claimed she guided them to safety through treacherous squalls, her light a miraculous guidepost. But others told a darker tale of how her light had lured their fellow sailors onto hidden rocks, their boats dashed to pieces against the shore, their cries swallowed by the storm. She does not just appear to wander, she hunts. Witnesses, those brave or foolish enough to watch from a distance, reported seeing shadows moving in tandem with her light, distorted shapes that seemed to writhe and crawl at her feet. In some terrifying accounts, they saw the shadow of the lantern fall upon an unsuspecting traveler walking the cliff path. And once the shadow touched them, they never rose again. Villagers claimed to have found bodies washed up on the shore days later, all unnaturally pale, with faint, strange scorch marks on their skin, as if the very glow of her lantern had burned into their flesh. The Lantern Woman has been seen for centuries, and her form seems to shift with the telling. Sometimes, she appears as a grieving mother, weeping softly as she searches for a lost child among the gorse and heather. In these moments, she seems tragic, almost pitiful. At other times, she is a skeletal figure, draped in rotting brown fabric, her eyes glowing like dying embers in the dark, her purpose malevolent and clear. And, in the most disturbing tales, she appears to imitate those who had wronged her in life, taking on their faces, their voices, luring their descendants to the cliffs and the unforgiving sea below. Rumors of deaths connected to her have never truly stopped. Locals whisper of as many as 30 disappearances over 2 centuries. Sailors, travelers, and even servants at Raynham Hall who dared to speak too freely of the spectral Brown Lady. To this day, many in the coastal towns of Cornwall refuse to recount the old stories openly, fearing that to speak the name of the Lantern Woman is to summon her, that she may hear them on the wind and turn her cold, empty gaze in their direction. And yet, every so often, she returns, the same lonely figure, wandering the same wind-battered cliffs, forever searching, forever waiting, her lantern flickering like a phantom heartbeat in the dense, silent fog. Her story is far from over. It has merely been waiting in the shadows. Have you ever heard a story so chilling it makes the hair on your arms stand up? A tale whispered on the wind, carried by the salty spray of the sea. Tonight, we journey to the rugged mist-shrouded cliffs of Cornwall, where a ghost story transformed into a terrifying local legend. This is the tale of the Lantern Woman. It all begins with Dorothy Walpole, the infamous Brown Lady of Raynham Hall. Her tragic story of imprisonment and a lonely death is well known. But when her spirit, tormented and restless, was said to have drifted from the halls of her home and crossed into the wild landscapes of Cornwall, something changed. The sorrowful ghost became something far more sinister. She was no longer just a specter of a tragic past. She became a predator. Imagine the scene, a dark, winding coastal road in the 19th century. The air is thick with a cold, damp fog that swallows all sound. Suddenly, a soft, flickering light appears in the distance. It's a lantern, held by a pale woman in a brown dress. As she walks, her shadow stretches and writhes behind her, twisting into shapes that defy the laws of nature. This is the sight that greeted travelers in Cornwall, and for many, it was the last thing they ever saw. Those who encountered her reported a sudden, overwhelming sense of dread. Their hearts would pound in their chests, a cold sweat breaking out on their skin. Their minds would grow foggy and confused, as if a strange enchantment was being cast over them. The lantern's glow was mesmerizing, drawing them closer, promising warmth or guidance in the disorienting fog. But it was a trap, and then, the disappearances began. One of the earliest and most disturbing accounts comes from the year 1823. A young servant girl, traveling late at night, saw the faint, beckoning light along the cliffs. Perhaps she thought it was a lighthouse keeper or a fellow traveler who could guide her. Whatever her reason, she was drawn to it. She chased the light, following its bobbing, hypnotic dance along the treacherous, crumbling cliff edge. She was never seen alive again. Days later, her body washed ashore. The villagers who found her were horrified. Her skin was unnaturally pale, almost translucent, but the most chilling detail was the state of her hands. They were covered in deep, severe burns, as if she had desperately tried to grasp the scorching hot lantern itself. The community was gripped by fear. They whispered that she hadn't just fallen or drowned. She had been claimed by the Lantern Woman, and she wasn't the last. Since that fateful night, local lore claims at least 12 more official disappearances are tied to this ghostly figure. Fishermen heading out for a night's catch, merchants traveling between coastal towns, and even curious locals who dared to seek out the legend, all vanished without a trace. The only common thread was the sighting of a lone, flickering lantern just before they were lost to the fog. The Lantern Woman's method is what makes her so uniquely terrifying. She doesn't scream or leap out from the shadows like a common ghost. She hunts with an insidious elegance. She lures her victims with a promise of light, of safety in the darkness. But her true weapon is the shadow that trails behind her. As you get closer to the light, you unknowingly step into her darkness. It's a cruel, psychological game. She offers hope, only to snatch it away at the last moment, leaving her victims lost and alone before she strikes. There's another chilling aspect to this legend. The curse is said to be generational. Families who live along the coast speak of an inherited dread. If your ancestors saw the Lantern Woman, or worse, mocked the tale, your bloodline is marked. It is said that you, or your children, or your children's children, are doomed to one day see that same light and follow it to your demise along the unforgiving coastline. Over the centuries, the numbers have grown. Rumor holds that more than 50 lives in total have been touched by her lantern since her story first began in the 1700s. Some were confirmed disappearances, claimed by the sea after a strange light was seen. Others are simply unexplained tragedies, where the only clue left behind was a whispered story of a woman in brown. Each one adds another layer to the terrifying legacy. You might think this is all just ancient folklore, stories told to scare children away from the dangerous cliffs. But even today, the legend persists. Locals who have lived in Cornwall their entire lives swear they still see her light on foggy nights. A strange, solitary glow moving where no path exists. Modern technology hasn't dispelled the myth, it's only added to it. Strange, blurry photographs occasionally surface, capturing a faint, indistinct figure in a brown dress, walking near the old grounds of Raynham Hall, or, more frequently, along the desolate Cornish cliffs. The debate continues among those who believe. Some say that seeing the lantern is a warning, a sign to turn back and seek shelter immediately. They believe the lantern woman is a harbinger of doom, appearing before a storm or a tragedy at sea. But others hold a much darker view. They say that if you see her light, it's already too late. It's not a warning, it's a death sentence. The light is for you, and only you. She has chosen you. Think about the sheer persistence of this entity. She is not bound by time or logic. Empires have risen and fallen. The world has changed beyond recognition, yet the lantern woman returns, again and again. Centuries have passed, but travelers still vanish into the mist. Strange lights still appear on stormy, windswept nights, and the core elements of the legend remain unchanged. The brown dress, the glowing lantern, and the endless, patient hunt. She is a ghost, a curse, and a predator, all wrapped into one. Her sorrow has curdled into a deep-seated malice. Her loneliness into a hunger for company, even if that company must be dragged into the cold, dark waters with her. So, if you ever find yourself walking the beautiful but treacherous cliffs of Cornwall on a foggy night, be vigilant. If you see a lone light flickering in the distance, a warm glow that seems to cut through the gloom, your first instinct might be to approach it. Don't. Every fiber of your being might tell you to investigate, to see who is out there. Do not follow it. A voice inside you might want to call out. Do not speak. And no matter how strong the temptation, no matter how much you want to know what is behind you, whatever you do, do not glance back. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into the dark, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. You won't want to miss what's coming next.